Good evening. Welcome to the Portage Lakes Joint Vocational School Board meeting for the month of March. Mr. Wright, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Chinaki? Here. Mr. Cohen?
Here.
Mr. Fauser?
Here.
Mr. Hercules?
Here.
Mr. Hofer?
Here.
Mrs. McGraw is absent. Ms. Cherry is absent. Mr. Jividen?
Here.
Mr. Campbell?
Here. Would you all please rise and join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moving on, any visitor comments this evening? No, if not, then we will move on to the treasurer's report and recommendations. Mr. Wright.
Thank you. Item number 1 is a recommendation to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of February 16th, 2023 as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Wright.
Mr. Jividen?
Yes.
Mr. Chinaki?
Yes.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mr. Fauser?
Yes.
Mr. Hercules?
Yes.
Mr. Hofer?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Motion passes. Item number 2 is a recommendation to approve the financial reports, check register, bank reconciliation, and comparative financial report for the month of February 2023 as presented, subject to audit.
So second.
Thank you, Mr. 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 Wright.
Mr. Hercules?
Yes.
Mr. Hofer?
Yes.
Mr. Chinaki?
Yes.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mr. Fauser?
Yes.
Mr. Jividen?
Yes.
And Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
That concludes the treasurer's business.
All right, that's quick. I'm going to take a second, give us the Lorain County, our partners in crime.
So at last month's meeting, we talked a little bit about how Lorain County Auditor had brought an appeal to the Ohio Tax Commissioner related to the Nexus Pipeline case. That was disposed of by the Ohio Tax Commissioner. However, the Lorain County Auditor just in the past couple days has now filed that case with the Supreme Court. What that means is we are not on a fast track for any kind of settlement, and word on the street related to any kind of Ohio Supreme Court case is you're looking at 2 years before this is settled potentially. I'm not sure if that's really the timeline or not, but for our purposes here at Portage Lakes, our forecast doesn't rely on any kind of settlement in the future or any kind of windfall from a settlement. We are continuing to rely on Nexus Pipeline to keep making their tender payments like they have been for the past several years, and that's what we rely on in the forecast.
All right, great. Hurry up to wait again. Thank you, Lorain County.
Stay tuned.
All right, thank you, Mr. Wright.
Thank you.
Mrs. Ruffin.
Yes. Mrs. Saley, would you come up, please? Mr. Clark is in Columbus at the OCTA meeting,
He
representing
sure
us
is.
well.
Yeah, so I'm Tina Saley. I'm the assistant principal here at PLCC. I am, subbing for Mr. Clark. He's presenting actually about our model program to help kids get their driver's license. So it's pretty exciting. He's presenting to other career centers about all the cool things that we're doing with our program, which in my opinion has been a total game changer for a lot of kids to help them get that license. Since we last met, PLCC has just been buzzing with activity. It seems like every day there's either a guest speaker in 2 or 3 different labs, or somebody's going on a field trip, somebody's having a potential employer in. It seems like every day there's some new thing that's going on. And I wanted to just highlight a couple weeks ago that we had an awesome career fair, and just to say a public thank you to Lisa Tripney for, an incredible amount of work that was put in to organize that. I also would like to give a public shout out to Miss Combs, who's not here tonight. It's her birthday, so we can't blame her too much. But she put in so much time and effort and energy creating universal employability lessons that she was able to give to all of our career tech teachers so that they could prepare our students for the career fair. And the employer feedback I think, was that our kids were prepared. So that was really awesome, and just a lot of hard work on both of their parts. So thank you guys so much for that. I'd like to thank all of our students who came out tonight. I have the pleasure of highlighting our students of the month. I think we only have one of them here tonight, but I'll highlight each of them just to celebrate them because they've certainly earned it. Our first student of the month is Cheyenne Wiley from Springfield. She's a senior who's in our culinary arts program, and she's a full-day student. Cheyenne's teachers say that she always takes the initiative to look for new ways that she can help in the kitchen when she's done with her own assigned tasks. She volunteers to assist other students regularly and is always looking to learn as much as she can in the culinary field. So congrats to Cheyenne. She's not here. Our next student is Maxwell Tristano from Coventry. Max is a junior in the Engineering, Robotics, and Manufacturing Academy. Ms. Russell says he's a wonderful student. He shows up every day ready to work hard and to do his best. He's a leader in the classroom. He's always willing to help other students in need. Mrs. Russell just really enjoys having him in class and outside of school. He enjoys hanging out with his friends, playing golf, and working. So congratulations to Max. He's not here tonight. And our next student of the month is here, Julia Jodan from Green. Julia is a senior in our Law and Criminal Justice program. I actually had to cut down some of the things that your teacher, Officer Britt, had to say about you because it was just such a shining review, but here goes. He says that you have been a top performer in your class. You understand complex problems and you solve them quickly. Julia manages her time well and is always willing to lend a hand to other students. She challenges herself academically and always actively participates in her classroom discussions. She's a leader, but she remains humble and seeks constructive feedback from her instructor so that she can always be getting better. Mr. Britt says that she is a standout individual and will always impress those that she works with. Julia has been accepted to The Ohio State University. Outside of PLCC, she participates in the Green High School Choir, National Honor Society, National Technical Honor Society. She enjoys reading, writing, listening to music, and hanging out with her friends and family. So congratulations, Julia. We have a little swag for you. I really want to just say thank you also to the law students for coming just to celebrate Julia. I think that's such a cool tradition that you guys always seem to show up for each other. I think that's awesome. Our last student of the month, Grace Bowe, sorry, also not here, from Manchester. Grace is a senior in our DCM program. She's an exemplar student in DCM and has earned several Scholastic Art Awards this year. She's earned a scholarship to a local university. 3 of her pieces have advanced to the state competition in the Ohio Governor's Youth Art Exhibition. Her teacher describes her as ambitious, curious, collaborative, and eager to learn. She has grit and is well-rounded and a hardworking student. Ms. Eibel says she has been such a pleasure to work with this year, and she continually is impressed by her excellent design sensibility, drive, and effort. Congratulations, Grace. Not here, unfortunately. Unfortunately, it seems like our students of the month are pretty busy kids usually. And now I have the pleasure of turning the mic over to Mrs. Murphy, who is our Skills USA advisor, and so she's going to highlight some other really cool things that have been going on. Thank you.
Hello. I have a couple students here for Skills. If you guys want to come over here too, so I can introduce you. I am Sarah Murphy. I am a secretary here at the school. I started last year and took over as the advisor late last fall. I asked a couple of students to come here so we can recognize them. We went to regionals at the end of February, and we had 26 students that were individual or parts of teams compete in over 20 different competitions, and we took the top 3 in 10 of those different competitions, moving on to states at the end of April in Columbus. That is 16 students. We had everything from building trades to medical tech to law and all of these different areas, which is really exciting. And juniors that are taking on the seniors, which teachers were shocked that we were bringing juniors in those categories. So that was kind of neat to hear. We had For states, we have 23 students going to states. Some of them are straight to state competitions. We had 4 new areas compete this year from last year, and 2 brand new to competing, law and medical technology, which I was really excited for that as well. So I have here Kyle. He is from the law, and he placed first in criminal justice, missing only 20 points in the whole competition. Did an amazing, fantastic job. He has to do PT at states. He's looking forward to that. And then I have, oh my gosh, Hannah. She is part of the 4 group going on to states. They placed 3rd for Health Bowl knowledge. So they had to take quizzes, tests, shout out answers. It was really interesting to watch from the door because we weren't allowed in. And then I have Alexis Kleski. She's also a med tech student. She placed 3rd in medical terminology. So she had to take a nice written multiple choice test, and she will move on as well to states. We had 5 Springfield, 3 Manchester, 3 Coventry, and 9 Green. So we had students from all 4 schools, which was really cool too. So again, we'll compete at the end of April. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we'll go down and see how it goes. And then the top 1 at states gets to go on to Atlanta, Georgia for the nationals. So a goal we're working towards. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Murphy. All the students, if you would like to go, you may go, or you can hang out for the rest of the meeting. Your choice. I'll go with you. Thank you, Bill. Thank you very much.
I always encourage you to leave before I start speaking, so. Congratulations. Well, good evening, everyone. I'll make it quick, as I always like to try to do. I'm just going to give you the numbers again, like I always do. I'm the numbers lady. Right now, we're at 162 adult education students. At this point in the year, we're feeling pretty good about retention. We know we have some ways to go with our practical nursing program, but we will tackle that with different initiatives next year, and hopefully I'll be able to report some good things. We did, however, in retention, go up from 2020 to we fill out several reports. Our 2020 to 2021 report, and then our 21 to 22 report showed an 18% increase in practical nursing retention. So we are chipping away at it, which is exactly what we want to do, but we want to see that number to continue to grow and go up. Hopefully next year we'll be at a level where I don't have to report that our percentages went up. I can just report that we got a really good grade. So then the next thing is for 23-24, we are in the thick of everything right now. We are starting to enroll very heavily, which is great news for mid-March. Years ago, we would start to see very heavy enrollment in June and July. And so now that we're seeing that in January, February, March, that's huge for us. Right now, all of our cosmetology programs, daytime and evening, are full. All of our other programs, HVAC, welding, and phlebotomy, are all set to run in the fall already. We have the numbers that we need to make up a class. We'd certainly love to fill those classes, but we're ready to roll now. Our part-time and full-time practical nursing, again, we are continuing to enroll for those. We can cap up to 50, and that is our goal for both of those classes. And there is a chance that next year we will also be able to run our automotive program, and hopefully we'll have the first run of our evening culinary arts program, and we'll fulfill one of our goals to have the Neon Lime open in the evening. So I'll keep you posted on that. We have 2 already enrolled, and we're hoping that number will continue to grow. Right now we have 110 students enrolled for August of 23-24, with an additional 20 interviews scheduled. So already we're at almost 130, and then please remember that this year we're at 162 total. So we're really hopeful for next year. Thank you for your continuing support.
Thank you. Thank you, Lisa. I just want to add, last month we had a presentation from Mrs. Eibel from Design Communication and Marketing, and she entered other student work in the Ohio Governor's Youth Art Exhibition, and you heard that one of our students of the month, her work will be displayed at the Ohio Department of Education. But we also had another student, Bobby Nair, who had a film that won. and placed in the top 25, and he was the only one in our region
Oh, sweet.
that displayed that. So his work, his artwork will be, his video will be displayed at the State Office Tower. So when if you go down there, you may see it on the 21st. I'm not sure exactly when it's going to be. But just to give a perspective of that, there were 8,304 regional entries across the state. Our region had 76 advanced to the state out of 424 entries. And those who placed are automatically eligible to 25 post-secondary institutions for scholarships. So this is a great opportunity for these students, and really getting to see some very finite work out of these students. And Bobby is a junior, so we look for him to, he's from Greene, we look for him to do even greater things. So I'll stop with that. The next, before I dive into the agenda, I want to have a little bit of a discussion in regards to the money, the construction money that has become available to the state of Ohio. On Thursday, I sat in on a Zoom which told us that there would be no strings attached to the $200 million, that we would not be held to the same standard as OFCC, and that money would be competitive, but the proposals were due by the 24th of April. And the issue with that is you had to provide the scale of the project, the cost of the project, and how it would improve new enrollment, whether it would be new construction or renovation of an area, and you had to provide a narrative on the regional importance of the in-demand spaces that you were using. So basically, we were left with the opportunity to move quickly on projects that we had to do for quite some time. So we met with several different entities, and we settled with Shook Construction, and I have two representatives here for any questions that you have. But essentially, what we've asked them to do is to take our two locker bays that we do not use and provide somewhat of an unsafe environment, to turn them into two classrooms that we can use immediately in the fall. And we are beginning to burst at the seams because of our enrollment. In addition, so that we can access the potential money of the $200 million that's available to 89 career schools, not just career centers. We have to have drawings and cost of the project. What the proposal on the board agenda ties us to getting the two locker bays ready to go in August, as well as the drawings. So the question might be, besides a lot of questions that I'm sure you have, might be, what if we don't get the $200 million? Well, there is also $100 million for equipment that we don't have any information about that comes out of ODE. In addition, I'm one of 10 superintendents in the state that is on the OFCC committee that is going to look at how the OFCC has a design manual that is very restrictive, and those of you who have participated in that, you know how restrictive it is. They are meeting with us to get feedback as to how can we work with career centers and free up the restrictions. What is it that you need? So I'm hoping that down the road will help as well. So essentially, tonight, if we approve this piece, it puts us in line to access the $200 million in a very quick timeline. If we're not awarded that, these are two projects in addition that we need to think about in the future. We are looking at our welding lab that needs extensive renovation and expanded, as well as adding a new career program that will help with our enrollment as well. So with that, I'll open up questions, and if you have any for the design company, you can ask that as well. It is a tight timeline. It isn't certainly the way that we want to operate, but the state has put us in a position, everyone at the state, and I spoke with Mr. Clark today to say, what is he hearing at the state on this? And everyone is scrambling to put forth what they need to access the 200 million. I just feel like we will be in a position to be ready. We've been told they have to be shovel ready by April 24th.
Oh, wow.
So, and the money starts flowing July 1.
So, quick question, is there cost sharing involved if we get
No.
grants?
No.
So they pay 100%?
Yeah. Or they will pay, they will say, I will give you X amount of money. If you need more money, you would have to seek that. But we're not going to be asking for anything that, A, we can't afford, or they wouldn't give us the money. So yeah, it's not, you have to take off the table the sharing of OFCC. They are not part of the $200 million. And again, I will say, no strings attached.
Okay.
Gotcha.
And if we don't get the money, we do have the money to cover the projects, correct?
I think, that would warrant another conversation. Do I think if we did it in phases? Yes, I think we do, yes. Chris and I have had this conversation. It's not something that we would have done this year, but it's certainly something that we definitely will need to invest in the welding lab with equipment. There's no doubt.
So the 425, just so that we're,
Yes.
is, let's say we put forth a proposal, and I'm just going to use kind
Yeah.
of crazy numbers.
Sure.
This whole thing costs $2 million to do. And some people may say that's not crazy, or, or 10 million, whatever that
Sure.
number is. And they come back and they say, thanks, but no thanks. What we're obligating tonight is that we're going to contract to do those proposals and what all of our ideas are, right? And put them in there in hopes of getting awarded the entire amount.
Yes.
And then if we don't, then it's still going to go forward with the locker area and redoing the 2 classrooms. So the 425, up to 425,
Yes.
is for the estimates, drawings, and the two renovations.
Designs for the renovation, right, just the design.
But
Not the
not,
actual
but not the build out of the locker
Oh,
area?
yes, to build out the locker, yes.
Okay.
Build the 2 lockers so that they are 2 classrooms that we can use in August.
Right.
And then design the other spaces that, we need in the future, but we
Right.
would hope that could be funded.
And
yes.
that total amount would be 425?
Yes.
And then if we get awarded 100% of what we propose, then we'll still have this company do that construction that we just talked about, and then the follow-on things will bid out. Is that
Yes,
okay?
correct.
Is
Correct.
that, I think I'm saying that right.
Yeah, you are.
No, I think you
I
nailed
follow
it.
you,
Okay.
Bob. Yeah, I
Yeah.
follow.
and-
Sounds right.
Yeah, and whatever we obligate ourselves for now will, and this is an answer you probably, no one could probably say yes or no to, will they retroactively allow us to come back and pay that, or are we kind of saying, we're going to contract this out, and once we have that decision, then we'll figure out the financing from that? Are we putting any money down to begin with? Or
Well,
a lot of questions packed up in that one comment.
there are, and everyone in the state has all of those questions. I will tell you that there are career centers who are accessing the OFCC money right now, and they were ready to put the shovel in the ground, and they've been told, don't put your shovel in the ground until this 200 million has been awarded. So there is retroactive money.
Okay.
We believe that will be part of that. But certainly, I would also go on record as saying that we can afford to have the 2 lockers built out without the money, and it would not put PLCC in any financial harm, as well as allow us to increase our enrollment.
Can we separate those things in terms of a design estimate proposal for, I guess, for those doing projects, it would be like the pre-bond work, right? Where they did all the little pieces and parts. And
Like
and then-
itemizing, are you talking about?
What's that?
Itemizing, everything?
Are you
Itemizing.
just
Oh,
saying
yeah.
separate the design from the actual construction?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we have that, because originally we asked for just the 2 locker rooms, and it was $220,000, I believe, for that. To 10, thank you, to do that A to Z.
Okay.
And
And
that
so-
work still needs bid.
Yeah.
Right.
That work
Right.
will need bid. So there will be board approvals later to actually do that work.
Okay, but the 425 includes no construction.
It includes construction of the 2
210.
lockers.
Two
The
lockers.
So it's
Classroom
210, and then
conversion.
there's a 215 piece.
Yes, that
Up to
includes the
215
drawing
to do the
of
drawing and
the
submissions
2
of everything
spaces
else.
that we've asked them
Yeah,
to.
but no additional construction.
Correct.
Okay. Sorry. Feel like-
Can
No,
you say-
you,
That's perfect.
to follow
You
up,
said
Exactly
April
right.
24th is when you need to have the projects ready. July 1st is when the money is released. Do you know when the work would actually start?
Well, no, the work for the 2 lockers would start as soon as school is out. Right. But the other, what we know is April 24th, and then June 30th, we would have to have the actual renderings. So again, if a school district or a career center does not already have a relationship with an architect or design build company, they've already started behind the 8 ball.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Follow-up question, Kim. I mean, I understand the 2 locker rooms, I understand the welding lab, which, yes, you're correct.
Yes.
It is way behind the times.
Yes.
But we had also talked at one time of alignment program. So how did you all come up with these decisions, and is that on the back burner for somewhere down the road?
No, at this point, we will be transitioning our current electrical program to include as part of.
Oh, okay.
Right, and that's based on conversations we've had with the advisory committee and local places that serve the Lyman program.
I wonder where all that
Yeah,
conversation
so
went.
it will be merged into, so kids can take a path of residential, union, Lyman, if that's what they want, right?
That's some nice choices.
It is. So that's separate.
Okay, thank you.
Would there be a way that we could write this to show the differentiation between the design and construction of the locker space, and then the design and drawings and proposals of the additional?
Yeah.
And maybe make that 2 separate, not 2 separate, but, not to exceed a total of 425, but for the locker
Yes.
project, it would be up to a certain, whatever that,
The 210?
yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe just to make that differentiation
Okay.
a little bit more clear to somebody that's watching that. Would that be cumbersome, or would that be, we could do that?
We can handwrite it today and then write it in the minutes. Is that how you want to do it, or?
Well,
What's on the agenda right now would be to accept the proposal that's in front of us. That proposal that's in front of us makes reference to the previous proposed amount of $210,000. That proposal was only for the locker areas and the work related to the locker area, correct? So it is listed separately here in this proposal. I don't know if that's sufficient.
That all of the changes happen prior to voting, so that there's, if anybody asks, we can show that, very, very specifically for that. So you'll see that in your email. We included Ms. Terry and Mrs. McGraw as well, even though they're probably, wait, what? So we'll be in touch with them and let them know what's going on. So the Shook folks have taken a look at it. They're in agreement with the language. So as we move forward, I'll have Chris read the amendments, A and B, then we'll ask for a motion to approve those, and then we'll move forward. So. Okay.
So would we need a motion and second to approve each of those?
We're going to do those together. I think we could do the amendments
Okay.
together.
Yeah. Okay.
As long, but we
Gotcha.
need to just know the verbiage before we put that out.
Understood. Item 6.2A is a recommendation to approve the Capital Improvement Program Design Services, Estimating Services, Bidding Services, Construction, and construction management services contract with Shook Construction per the March 3, 2023 proposal as it relates to the relocation of the tech lab and the renovation of locker spaces to classrooms not to exceed $210,000. Item 6.2B is a recommendation to
Yeah.
approve.
Let's go ahead and vote on these as separate. I think
Okay.
That's a good idea.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
do I have a motion for amendment 6.2A as read by Mr. Wright?
So moved.
Thank
Second.
you, Mr. Chinaki and Mr. Cohen. Mr. Wright?
Mr. Chinaki?
Yes.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mr. Fauser?
Yes.
Mr. Hercules?
Yes.
Mr. Hofer?
Yes.
Mr. Jividen?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
That motion passes. 6.2B is a recommendation to approve the capital improvement program design services, estimating services, bidding services, and any required documentation preparation with Shook Construction per the March 3, 2023 proposal as it relates to satisfying requirements to access capital project grants currently proposed in House Bill 33. These proposed contracted services relate to a welding lab and a dental lab not to exceed $215,000.
Does that sound right? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Thank you, Dave.
Second.
Thank you, Jason. Mr. Wright?
Mr. Hofer.
Yes.
Mr. Jividen.
Yes.
Mr. Chinaki.
Yes.
Mr. Cohen.
Yes.
Mr. Fauser.
Yes.
Mr. Hercules.
Yes.
Mr. Campbell.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Keeping in mind that if we have other projects, we'll have to go back and do another one. All right. And now back to the original 6.2 that we already have a motion and a second by Dave and Jason. Any additional comments or questions about that?
I think we got that.
Okay. Mr. Wright?
Mr. Hofer.
Yes.
Mr. Jividen.
Yes.
Mr. Chinaki.
Yes.
Mr. Cohen.
Yes.
Mr. Fauser.
Yes.
Mr. Hercules.
Yes.
Mr. Campbell.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right.
That was easy.
This is what,
You got a Staples button over there, you know?
The important part of the agenda. 6.3, 22-23 substitute list for custodians. So I'm recommending that the board approve the employee listed above and add them to the 22-23 substitute list.
do I have a motion for that?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Hercules.
Second.
Thanks, Dave. Mr. Wright?
Mr. Hercules.
Yes.
Mr. Hofer.
Yes.
Mr. Chinaki.
Yes.
Mr. Cohen.
Yes.
Mr. Fauser.
Yes.
Mr. Jividen.
Yes.
Mr. Campbell.
Yes.
Motion passes.
6.4, equipment donations. All of the items you see below are donated to the welding program. A practice that I've had started probably the last 6 months is when we get a donation to get an approximate cost so that the board can see and appreciate how much donations that we get. So the three are from Falls Metal Fabricating, Ohio Gradings, and Gene Peterson. So I'm recommending that the board approve the donations listed for the welding lab.
So moved. Second.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen. Thank you, Mr. Fauser. Mr. Wright?
Mr. Cohen.
Yes.
Mr. Fauser.
Yes.
Mr. Janaki.
Yes.
Mr. Hercules.
Yes.
Mr. Hofer.
Yes.
Mr. Jividen.
Yes.
Mr. Campbell.
Yes.
Motion passes.
My last item, item 6.5, board policy update. I'm waiving the first reading as it is a change in language, but not a change in practice of what we do at PLCC, and every board is having to change their notifications of meetings, but it is a practice that we've always done. So I'm recommending that the board approve the board policy updated list below.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen.
Second.
Thank you, Mr.
Thanks, Kim, for explaining that. We can waive the first reading.
We can't, for minor changes or.
Everybody's-
I don't.
Yeah, Mr. Wright?
Mr. Hofer.
Yes.
Mr. Jividen.
Yes.
Mr. Chinaki.
Yes.
Mr. Cohen.
Yes.
Mr. Fauser.
Yes.
Mr. Hercules.
Yes.
Mr. Campbell.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. New business. Anything under new business? I would ask one thing. So lately, there's been the, what's the AI thing, writing papers?
ChatGPT.
Chat something?
ChatGPT.
Yeah. Are we, is there conversation around that as to how it is kind of coming into our land, you know, coming into our biosphere here in terms of, you know, students writing and stuff? I think I saw something about 6 weeks ago that they put something out, and the universities at the college level were very concerned about it. And then they also, at the time, said it wouldn't be used at the lower grades because it writes in such a high level, you know, high level of expertise, right, or of properness. Like I can't speak properly. But I'm sure that there's somebody that's making those changes that you can say, I need a 6th grade book report on, you know, Abraham Lincoln. Is there any talk in the education world about that?
There is. Go ahead, you can address it if you'd like, Lisa.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but it's just kind of one of those things like, you know.
I was an English teacher for many, many years, so this is of particular importance to me. I've spoken about it with quite a few of our instructors. In our CTE programs, since so much is hands-on, there is very little that could be computer-generated writing work. But our academic instructors are particularly aware of it. And I would say that from an academic instructor's standpoint, you know your student's voice well enough to know if that computer generation has assisted more than it should. I think even by about the 2nd week, especially with the luxury that we have of the smaller class sizes, our instructors know the student voice, tone, certain nuances of their writing. I hate to say it, but certain frequently misspelled words, etc. So those are usually the red flags that would tip any instructor off to begin with. But I'd say for our CTE programs, since they are so hands-on, since it is such a skills-based curriculum, that wouldn't weigh as heavily here as it perhaps would at a more traditional school with a lot more college prep, AP, perhaps CCP class offerings. I do know in our early college high school, the University of Akron does apply certain filters that checks for those kinds of, I almost want to say, language nuances that might indicate that there has been some computer-generated assistance. So on the college level, I'm sure Dr. Cohen already sees that himself. There are quite a few things that they're alerted to begin with, and there are quite a few things that schools have enabled on the back end that will allow that fed paper to be sifted through to begin with. But it is on our radar. We are obviously very well aware of it, but I don't think it's as big a concern here at a career center as it would be at a more traditional school.
Okay. Yeah.
I hope I answered your question. It's sometimes a little hard to hear over here, so.
Yeah, just, you know, as long as the conversation is being had, because I think everybody's kind of, you know, now.
Absolutely.
You know, it's almost one of those things where, you know, the whole push of less and less homework or graded work coming back in is almost, you know, coming true, because now it's just like, who knows who did the work? So,
Well, yeah, Bob, I'm learning Arduino and microcomputer language, and you can go to a website called GPT, type in an instruction, and it will line it out for you, the code for it, like in C++ or C.
Wow.
It is amazing how accurate it is. My son-in-law was just beginning to teach me here a couple months ago, and he would type something in, you'd see it blink off for a second, and all of a sudden, there'd be like 3 lines of code that you could go with that. Yeah, it's rather
crazy.
Interesting.
That's crazy.
Coming out of teaching about 5 years ago, I'll call it, I would end up having papers handed in. And what basically I would do, I would read their paper, and then I would ask them questions out of that paper. And that way I was actually, and if they learned what they were saying, then the point was made anyway, because they're doing it and they're learning by what they wrote or what was written by someone else. If they didn't pass their test, then I didn't give them any of the credit for that paper. So it was a matter of me, and I enjoyed doing that anyway, and I'd have about the downside was I'd have about 150 of those things to grade whenever I'd have the papers go out. So I would have them, hand them in waves of so many per week. But I just would read it myself and then ask them questions about what supposedly they wrote. And in that way, I would know if they wrote it or not without having to, because now they do have the computers. Back in those days, they didn't have the computers, but I'd have these kids hand in reports. They go, can I get extra credit if I hand in a report? I go, well, let's see what it is. And they would do a report, and I would read it, and I'd ask them questions about it. And they either passed or they didn't.
Yeah, yeah. It'll be interesting going forward how it's.
Yeah, but now the computers are bigger.
Okay. Anything else?
That's all.
All right. For the informal, Mr. Hercules, do you want to start us off this evening?
I'd like to thank the guys from Shook for driving way out here. I think Mr. Lowther over there drove probably about a mile, right?
Because
you gotta make turns.
Could have walked it, I mean.
You know, Shook is who we're using at Manchester as well, so I know Andy. Would you like to introduce who's with you?
Yeah, this is Matt Gilbert. He's actually my boss, and he's got built one of the biggest career centers in the state, correct?
Fastest, yeah.
Matt.
Happy to be here. Thank you for the comments.
It's nice to have you here, and it's exciting to have work going on.
For sure. Mr. Chinaki?
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. I just think that some of the updates about hearing where the students finished in competition, both locally and then regionally and then nationally, is just very, very impressive. Just some really great momentum there for those students. And then also hearing about the retention and adult education moving forward, how that's looking, that's exciting to hear as well. So it sounds like we have a pretty good plan in place to get those numbers keep going, keep on the upward trend. So a lot of exciting things. So very, very, very exciting.
Thank you, Mr. Chinaki.
And I would like to thank Lisa for her efforts and the numbers. I'm a numbers person also. And so those are all good. And again, coming out to PLCC is a good thing.
Mr. Jimmy?
It's always great to hear about the accomplishments of the students. Those are fabulous. And obviously the progress around here is great too. And can we give everybody at the table here kind of a little bit of credit for getting through all of that? Nobody yelling, nobody needed a lawyer, nobody. Yeah. So great job working together, everybody. And I always look forward to it.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Mr. Hofer?
Thanks, Bob. I'm going to change gears a little bit. I sent you all two emails.
You did.
Please read the one from the Ohio Education Policy Institute by Dr. Howard Fleeter. I have listened to him for over 10 years. He has a very good grasp on school funding in the state of Ohio and what House Bill 1 that passed in the Senate. There is a companion bill in the House. I just found out today there is a fourth read on the 21st. I will be in Columbus. I'm not sure I can get to the House Ways and Means Committee. But there is also some other bills that you need to be on your radar. House Bill 10, which seeks to phase in the school funding, which is the Cupp-Patterson bill. They want to phase it in and fast track that. House Bill 11, which is Kim's favorite, that is the backpack bill. That's on the agenda in the House. And then House Bill 12, which is the changing of K to 12 and separating out career tech, making those. There's some interesting things with that if you read that. That is, the state director of education will now be appointed by the governor. I don't know about y'all, but I'm not so sure that's a good step in the right direction by either party. If you want to take that into consideration.
And may not be an educator by trade.
Well,
Right. Yeah. Not necessarily.
those are some things to read up. House Bill 1, or Senate Bill 1, if passed as it is, and you read it, I was having a conversation with Mr. Wright this morning, or this afternoon, that will affect PLCC because it affects property taxes, and it will affect every one of us in our home districts. So if you have some time, drop an email. Senator Rogner is our senator, state senator, and then Bob Young for PLCC. I'll look up the other ones for, I think, in Greene and Manchester, those two will stay. Springfield is completely different. I have Bern Sykes and Dimitrioff, which is a new state rep. So some interesting things are in the pipeline. So just want you to be aware of that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for the update, Mr. Holford.
You're welcome.
Appreciate that. I don't really have anything. You all have covered everything. It's almost spring break, so
It's on the corner.
I'm good.
All right, perfect. Congratulations to the students of the month, Mrs. Saley for, picking up for doing the update. Thank you very much for that. And Ms. Murphy for picking up the Skills USA advisor stuff. It's not having gone through it, or, you kind of don't really quite understand it, but it's certainly a very involved process, and our students always do extremely well. And it's just, it's great to have somebody, that wanted to be part of that and kind of running that whole thing and giving it the proper, the proper amount of attention going down there for the state competition. The adult ed is always interesting to hear how that's going from, rising up from the grave, so to speak, right, or almost in the grave coming there. It's amazing to see that, and I put in quotations, no strings attached, and then I tried to put a laughing, crying, smiling, sad emoji.
It's on the Zoom and it's recorded.
So we'll see how that goes. That will truly be a first, I think, if we have that. But no, thank you. Thank you for keeping your eye on that. Thank you for having things ready to go in the lobby, so to speak. Chris, thanks for working through that. The Shook folks, we really appreciate. Number one, it's probably one of those things of most meetings you go, why did we come here? And it's just like, now it's kind of like, oh, that's why we came here, because they rewrote the entire thing. So we appreciate your guys' patience, and we appreciate your involvement in that, and working with us through there. So we, thank you very much for that. Other than that, spring break is coming. It's, I was going to say better weather, but I mean, after today, 58 degrees and sunny on March 16th is pretty fabulous. So we'll take it. Yeah. Other than that, that's all I got. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen. Thank you, Mr. Hercules. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Here we go. See you in April. Have a good Easter. Officially April 27th.